So I'd like to now give you 10 top tips for how you can support your child to be motivated and engage in home learning. The first tip I have is to give your child a reason to do a task that's not directly about learning. I call these emotivators. We're not thinking about how we can convince a child to engage in learning. We're not talking to them and trying to help them make logical connections about what the learning experience is going to do for them and how positive it will be and the opportunities it will give them. For motivators, we're thinking about ways that we can present the learning that is going to cause the child to have a positive emotional response. Feel happy, feel excited, have fun. And it's got to be something that is meaningful to them. So not what you think will be fun, but what your child is going to enjoy. So what you could do here is, instead of referring to learning or schoolwork, start the activity by inviting your child to play with you, or just do an activity together. And then maybe if you're focusing on a particular skill, like maybe you're practicing times tables or learning spellings, you can casually suggest that you try to rehearse that skill whilst you're having fun together. Or maybe you want to introduce a particular topic that they're going to be doing. Maybe they're working on Egyptians or the Tudors, and so maybe you're going to start just chatting about that topic, all whilst you're having fun together. Alternatively, don't suggest anything, just start doing. Just raise a subject, begin practicing a skill by saying that it's something you find interesting and want to share with them. So you might say, oh, I found out something really cool the other day, or I saw this video, or I've been trying to remember how to. And what you're really trying to do is check for smiles and aim for giggles. We want the child to be having fun. So whatever it is that they enjoy, whether it's construction, being outside, arts and crafts, role play, try to think about ways that you can bring the learning activity into the fun activity, what's going to make your child feel happy. And sometimes just having a run around and a cuddle with you is what they need to start off with. My next tip is explore together. We want to spark a child's curiosity. We want to encourage them to explore their world and want to find out information. And we can do this by modelling and demonstrating, by showing an interest and being inquisitive ourselves. So have a think about what your child wants to know more about, what do they want to be better at, and then encourage your child to find out more, experiment, try things, and show a genuine interest in what they discover. This is much more about being a parent than a teacher. So really we're looking at how we can help a child by exploring together and researching and doing something together. So you want to inspire, support, encourage, and adapt the way you learn together at home to suit your child's individual needs and personality. What are they interested in? It's okay if home learning is too challenging or is a topic that your child just isn't interested in. The purpose of home learning is for practice and rehearsal of particular skills. So it is okay to adapt those skills to suit your child's individual needs. Next, think about how you can use play and creative activities to engage your child. So my big advice here is ditch the worksheets. Teach through games, crafts and activities. And if you are a parent of a primary school child and you want some specific ideas of how you can do this for teaching reading, spelling and maths, then do check out my SEND bite-sized courses, where there are tons of activities included that you can use. But again, what we're really trying to do here is build on a child's interests. We want to help them to learn in different ways, and this is going to enable them to maximise their attention. They're always doing the same format of learning, it becomes a bit boring. And If your child loses focus, it is okay to change where you're working, or how you're supporting them, how you're teaching them. You can vary it up. It doesn't have to always be sat at a table. And as I said, it's really okay to adapt activities set by school. Either speak to the school and ask them for an alternative if your child is struggling, and particularly if your child has any kind of special educational needs. Please don't feel pressured that they have to do what is sent home. If they're not able to access it and do the work independently, then it needs to be differentiated to a greater extent. So that's worth having a conversation with school around that if your child is struggling to complete the tasks that are set home. Tip number 4 is spotting success. So for many children who struggle to engage in home learning, it's going to be because they find learning difficult. It's natural. We all are motivated to do things that we find easy and we enjoy. We don't all like a challenge. And if it's something that we're being asked to do day in, day out at school that we find hard, we're not going to want to do it at home. So we need to shift our expectations here that that success is completing a whole activity or doing the most amazing piece of schoolwork. You want to look for the small steps of progress, the little pieces of learning that you see your child do, and really praise not just the end result, but how your child gets there. So what you're aiming to do is when you're working with a child and encouraging them to engage in a task, you want to be praising throughout. Don't save the praise till the end, and try to be really specific. So instead of just a general, oh, well done, or yeah, really good, try to say exactly what it is that they have done well. So well done for thinking so hard, well done for correcting that mistake. And also, if your child does make a lot of mistakes, really try to find those tiny bits of learning where they are doing something well. And it might just be about their approach to learning, or it might be about their concentration for that particular day, or something they've said, or an idea that they've had. And if you see your child is really engaging in some problem solving, then that's really important to highlight to them and praise them, because that is the sort of approach to learning that we want to inspire and instill in our children. It's not just about the end result, it's about how we get there. That's what makes us good thinkers and strong learners. And sometimes you can give rewards as a surprise. Again, it doesn't just have to be at the end. We can boost motivation by just randomly halfway through saying to your child, oh, I'm really impressed with how you're doing this, or what you're doing. So here you go, here's a sticker, let's have a high five, have a biscuit, whatever works for your child. Next, think about where you're learning. Many children might associate a table and a chair, a worksheet and a pencil with negative feelings, where they may have had sense of failure and really struggled with their learning. So think about places at home that are most comfortable for your child. If you're going to be reading, where are they going to be most comfortable? Do they like being outside? Do they like snuggling up under a blanket? And keep the environment varied as well to engage your child, keep them interested. What I would just say here is that if your child is easily stressed by change, then obviously varying their environment is not the idea. But if your child is neurodiverse and they really need routine and familiarity, again, think about the environment that they respond to best and then stick with that. And I would encourage you to, as much as you can, try to learn outdoors. Only sit at a table if you absolutely have to. If you need it because you're doing maybe more of an extended writing task, but maybe could you do some writing outside? Again, it's that balance between what's going to distract a child and what's going to make them feel alert and interested and motivated. And we do know from research, particularly younger children, feel more confident when they're learning outdoors. Next, think about a wow start. So if the words home learning and your regular home learning slot at home fills your child with dread, surprise them with something completely different and unusual. Make that learning experience really stand out. So could you dress up in relation to the topic, or find some interesting resources, either that you've got at home or looking online? Choosing topics that have dilemmas and mysteries to promote curiosity can be a great way to engage older children in particular. Children at secondary school are often exploring many different topics throughout a particular term. So it may be that they're doing a project work or an essay, and you can support and encourage them by engaging in discussion and finding a little bit about it yourself first. And start a task by talking about a related activity that your child has previously done, something that they enjoyed maybe or found exciting, so that they start off already sort of associating the topic in a positive light. This next tip is one that I often recommend to clients. It can be quite nerve-wracking for children when they feel that they're being expected to just complete a task, to get on with their learning, particularly if they lack confidence or are quite anxious. So what we can do here is think about how we can model first. We want to remove any pressure for your child in terms of what we're expecting them to do, and give them reassurance in a sense that we will support them along the way. Now, obviously, it can be difficult if you are not able to be with your child the whole time. But for the moments that you are with your child, try to use the following phrases: look and listen, together, you try. What we want to do is we want to show the child how to complete a task, then encourage them to join in with you. So it's not about them having a go by themselves at all. You're showing, you're demonstrating, and then you're encouraging them to join in. And if they get stuck or they're not feeling very confident, don't ask them to have a go by themselves. Go back into that cycle of model and show, encourage to join in. Then when you feel your child might be ready, that's the point at which then you would encourage them to have a try themselves. Just remember that for children who are neurodiverse, asking them to look at you can be quite a stressful experience. So it's quite a natural instinct to say, look at me, when you're talking to a child and you're trying to explain something. But if your child is neurodiverse, we want to try and avoid that. So what you can say instead is, look at what you're doing, look at the picture, look at the game. You could touch your ears and say, listen with your ears as a prompt. Anything that is encouraging them to focus on something that isn't about making eye contact. The other thing to bear in mind is try to start any home learning tasks at a level that your child can easily understand and complete with minimal effort. So there's a very gradual increase in challenge. And again, what I said before, if this is something you're not quite sure how to do yourself, go back to your child's school and ask them for more differentiation so that you can ease your child in very, very gently. Another useful phrase is just to simply say, I'll start and you join in when you're ready. It's a big, big difference to here's the home learning task. I'll help you get started, but you've got to get on and do it. And what you might find is actually after a few times of hearing from you that actually they don't have to just get on with it themselves, that you're going to be there to support them. They're going to perhaps become more confident, and you may see that they actually then do end up becoming more independent in their learning, because that emotional barrier of the anxiety and worry about getting it wrong or not understanding, that emotional barrier has been removed. So as I've said already, sometimes children have negative associations with learning. So the idea, the thought of doing any kind of learning task can create stress and anxiety. Sometimes children get really frustrated really, really quickly. So what we can do as parents to help is to practice the art of calm. Basically, what we want to do is teach techniques for your child to be able to become more aware of their emotions and how their emotions are affecting their body, and then what they can do to bring themselves back down to their own personal level of calm. So tasks that involve mindfulness and music are really great for this. You might want to think about doing this daily. You might want to start an activity with a bit of mindfulness or meditation. Some children respond really well to having classical music played in the background. So encourage your child to use mindfulness strategies at home, demonstrate to them, do it with them, make it a fun family activity, and then prompt them and remind them to use their strategies if they need support to cope with the emotional barriers that they might experience in relation to learning, and to help them feel a sense of control when they're feeling a bit out of depth. If you're looking for mindfulness activities, there's loads of apps and websites out there. Just have a search online and just have a try out and see what works for you. There's no right or wrong. It's what works for your child and what's going to help them the most. It's really important that we structure home learning activities in chunks. So trying to think about how we can provide opportunities for your child to learn little and often. They're going to be much more effective at maintaining attention, taking on board what they're learning and recalling it later on if they learn in chunks than if they are having to sit for a whole solid hour just to get everything done. And also try to encourage your child to move between those chunks of time. These are called movement breaks, and they're great for all children. Children's bodies are designed to be moving, and the chemicals that are released when children exercise help to stimulate the brain and get it ready for thinking and learning. So some examples of activities you could try with your children: skipping, running up and down the stairs, push-ups against a wall. You don't have to have any fancy activities or even watch any videos. But obviously if your child does have an interest, maybe football or cycling, you can do this. What about climbing trees? Do we climb trees anymore? We want our children to climb trees. And other ideas are hula hooping, crawling and hopping. So the list goes on, and any ways you can think of for your child just to move for a couple of minutes between doing home learning activities. And sometimes they might need a bit more of a longer break in between, so maybe 10 or 20 minutes between each chunk of learning as well. You will know your child and how they respond and what's going to work for them best. Just remember that you supervise your child with any movement breaks, and if your child has any particular additional needs or conditions that mean that they might be at risk of injury when exercising, please check with their health professionals before you do any activities together. My final tip for you is to do something called visualizing. This basically means thinking through tasks first and then doing them together. Surgeons are often known to think through all the different possibilities and outcomes of different procedures because visualizing helps them prepare for the task and the surgery ahead and be better able to respond if things go wrong. And the same can be applied for children in relation to their learning, particularly if your child struggles with their learning and isn't easily motivated because all those negative emotions that they associate with learning. Just having a few moments together, maybe you're just going to chill out on the couch or lie on the grass outside and just think through in your mind what a task might be, talk through it with them, encourage them to try to see in their mind what resources they might need, what steps they're going to take. You can reassure them that you'll be there to help them find their resources and work out each step of the task. And if you can show a completed example, a picture of what the final task looks like, then you can work backwards from that and think through all the steps that might be needed and encourage your child to try to see in their mind all the steps that might be needed for completing the task. Now, not all children are able to visualize images in their mind, and that's okay. You can practice by perhaps sharing a story together and trying to create images of the story as you read it. And you can model visualization by talking through a task and saying out loud what you're thinking in your mind and how you might approach a problem and try to solve it. Encourage your child to do the same, to say out loud, to say their thoughts and feelings out loud, to say what they're seeing in their mind. And then plan together where your child would like to be with their learning and what's going to help them get there. So if, as they're visualizing, they are highlighting the barriers. I won't be able to do this. I'm going to find this hard. I don't understand that. I don't know what you mean. Okay, great. We're not doing it yet. So that's great. That means I can help you by thinking of some ways around that and speaking to your teacher and getting some ideas of how we can help that make a bit more sense. And it means that you are going to be able to identify potential problems before you're actually sitting down and doing the home learning task with your child. Thanks for listening. I hope you found these tips helpful. Please remember, if you're a parent or a carer, your job is to encourage and support. You don't have to be the teacher. It is okay not to know everything, and it is okay if your child doesn't always want to learn and doesn't always engage when you ask them to. Be patient, try to keep things positive, and do talk with your child's teacher if they are struggling to access the home learning, and ask for it to be differentiated further if it is just too much for them.